Hello, I'm Stephen Robbins, and I am here with Isaac Teyssier today to discuss how we can fail to achieve things or we can get held back and have blocks in what's going on in our lives because of the way that we're thinking. Now, a lot of us are familiar with external blocks and so on and so forth. Isaac is going to talk a bit about how the way that you think, the way that you approach things, and how your mindset affects what you can and can't do. Welcome, Isaac.
Thank you for having me.
So, the way that, go ahead.
No, I think it's a little bit lagging.
I'm getting tremendous lag on my end. I'm going to, for those of you watching, we will be here. I'm just going to hide us and then re-enable us and hope that that magically resets the internet, the whole internet, like all of it, even Facebook. All right, testing, testing. Is this coming through any faster?
I guess it's better. The sound may lag a little bit.
You know what? Let's give it a shot and see where we end up. And if not, then next time I'll use a different platform and we'll try that. So Isaac, thank you for joining us. You approached me at one point and asked about talking about how habits and mindset affect people's ability to accomplish things. And I was like, I hereby doubt. I doubt you. I don't think that you have something that would necessarily work. You're far too young and inexperienced. And then you took me through your process because I wanted and demanded to see proof. And I was kind of blown away because, in fact, the process that you've developed was indeed effective with the thing that I was dealing with. So could you tell us a little bit about, at a very high level, what is the process and how did you develop it? Where does it come from?
Okay. So the process is very simple. And the how to do is just to find the one need which keep you stuck, the one need which is unfulfilled in a given situation, and to do one simple action to fulfill this need. And basically, I developed this process when I was working on traumatic memories. And so I work with people, I help them to remove traumatic memories. And I had amazing results. But at some point I was like, okay, now I have become the trauma guy. And so I reorganized my process to help people achieve their goal. And so here we are.
So how then does mindset get in the way of achieving goals? Because I totally understand it when you say you used to be the trauma guy, but it sounds like now you're somehow applying the same technology, not to trauma situations, but to situations where people are for some reason stuck or being held back. How do those two relate? How do you go from trauma guy to, oh, I'm helping people actually move forward? That doesn't seem to me like those.
Okay, so basically, to understand why it is so important to fulfill needs, we need to understand what it is. So a need is something which is essential for growth. So for example, you have a plant and it needs sunlight and nutrients from the soil. And if it lacks nutrients, it will have a negative effect on its growth. So when you have a need which is lacking, basically you feel stuck. And that's why to find this one key need and to fulfill it in a given situation, then you become unstuck. So I'll give you an example. I had one client, he always felt overwhelmed and he felt stuck in this cycle of to-do list. He had to do things, do things, do things. And he felt like he had no time left to actually do what he really wanted, which was his side business and spending more time with his family. So we looked at what was the need which was lacking for him, and it was the need for connection. And as soon as he was able to connect to himself, he was able to act and make decision from this place of being connected to himself and do what was right for him. So it became very easy for him to set clear boundaries and to free time to do what he really wanted to do. And there is a real difference when you act from a state of being overwhelmed and when you act from a state of being centered and connected to yourself.
And you're saying then that if we have needs that aren't being fulfilled, that keeps us from being connected and centered, and instead we kind of get caught up in overwhelm and thus hold ourselves back from doing stuff.
Yes, so it depends. For each person, there is a specific need, and the symptom may vary. For some, it is the need for connection. For some, it is the need for care, for significance, for contribution. Basically, it's very simple. Needs can be in two states. They can be either fulfilled or they can be in a state of lack. And if they are fulfilled, you feel positive emotion. And if they are in a state of lack, you feel negative emotion. Now, when you feel stuck, you usually feel negative emotion coming up again and again. And it means that there is one need, you don't know which one yet, which is not fulfilled. And so there is a part of you which resists to the situation. Basically, there is two symptoms when you have an unmet need. The first symptom is that you feel stuck because there is a part of you which is like, no, this is not fulfilling for me. I need something. Just put the brake. And the second symptom is that you bulldoze yourself through life and you never feel fulfilled. So you do action, do action, do action, even if you don't like it, and you feel like something is lacking. And no matter how successful you are, you don't feel fulfilled because you are trying to fulfill something in the inside from something from the outside, and it doesn't work.
Well, let's get concrete about this for a second. So let's say I'm a business person, and surprise, I am a business person. Woo! And one of the things that is on my list of things that I need to do every day is prospecting. And prospecting consists of going out, cold calling people, maybe writing some articles on LinkedIn. But basically, it's about reaching out, making contact with people. And I notice, for example, that I'm not as good as prospecting on a regular basis as everybody else might expect me to be, right? Like if I actually just spent 2 hours a day doing nothing but prospecting, like I'm sure that would be great, but I really resist. So let's say here I am, I'm about to do prospecting, and then I suddenly discover, oh wow, Twitter is much more interesting than prospecting. What do I do in that moment? You say that my hesitation is coming from an unfulfilled need. Well, it seems to me like, my big need is prospecting. So shouldn't I just be doing prospecting? What's going on instead, and how can I figure it out?
So it is the difference between a need and a strategy. Prospecting is a strategy to get a certain result. And a need is something which is essential for growth. So the need in prospecting might be to get a revenue stream, which if we look at the emotional level, what money means can mean many things. It can mean value, it can mean many different things, freedom, etc., etc. So we look at when you are applying this specific strategy of prospecting, what do you feel? My guess is that if you want to spend time on social media and distract yourself, you are not feeling very positive about prospecting. So there are some kind of negative feeling that you feel. Now, we are looking at this feeling and we know that when it's a negative feeling, it comes from an unfulfilled need. And so we fulfill this need so that prospecting becomes fun and you actually want to do it.
Okay, so let's see. So let me go ahead, because this is not entirely a hypothetical. So I should be asking then, what is the feeling that comes up when I prospect?
What do you feel?
What do I feel? So I guess I feel hesitation, because I don't know if this is a good use of my time or not. Because right, prospecting, most prospecting, well, I don't know if most, but basically the hit rate is going to be relatively small. If I'm used to always having something work, say 95% of the time, in prospecting, if something works 70% of the time, that's fabulous. And if it works 20% of the time, a lot of people I know say that's pretty good as well. So there is some part of my brain that says, oh, if I engage in this, I'm going to have to put up with a lot of things that don't work. So is this really a good use of time if it's only going to give me a 20% yield or a 40% yield? I think that for me, that's what's going on.
Okay, so then the question might be, do you want to fulfill the need and continue with this strategy? Or maybe you realize that if you listen to your need and you are like, maybe I am going to waste my time, maybe one solution can be to find a strategy where you don't spend as much time and it's more a group thing. How, like doing webinar or something, having a bunch of people. So that's one option. The other option is, if you want to continue with this strategy, then we can find the need and make it fun to actually do it. So you said you feel hesitation, right?
Yes.
What else do you feel?
I would say being resigned, like, I'm going to have to do this in order to build my business. I mean, clearly I have a feeling of not wanting to do it, right? I mean, like, oh, Twitter would be so much more fun. So I guess, I mean, fun might be it, is that may actually be the thing, is what I'm looking for, is a sense of fun and excitement, which isn't going to come to me through prospecting, but boy, is it going to come to me through Twitter. It's actually not going to be fun. It's going to be exciting because it's going to trigger me in 1,000 different ways. But, but yeah, I mean, I would say that's a piece of it, is fun or the lack of fun.
Okay, so would you say that you feel hesitant and bored?
Hesitant and bored. Yeah. That's actually, weirdly enough, that's probably the primary non-driver, is boredom. Just like, do I really have to do this?
All right. Great. So now, what do you need? Just say a bunch of things which come up, like, I let you pick whatever you want.
Sure. Fun is the first thing that comes up. I need this process to be fun. I need to engage with other people. And even though it's funny, because you might think prospecting is engaging, the reaching out part isn't engaging. It's engaging once I'm on the phone with somebody or once I'm in a Zoom call with somebody. But the actual, keeping track of who I've called and what they've said, that whole part of it, that's not engaging. So I need fun. I need engagement. Let's just continue with that, because I don't want to, I want us to get to other parts of your model as well. So let's say fun and engagement.
All right. So now visualize this need for fun being completely fulfilled. And you are still reaching out to the same prospects.
Mm-hmm. So just visualize myself feeling fun, or visualize myself somehow having it fulfilled. And I don't know how it's fulfilled. I just believe somehow it's just visualize fun Stever doing
just prospect. Somehow in this specific situation, feel that this need for fun is fulfilled. And you are doing the same thing, right? Reaching out to the same people, everything is same. Is there a problem or the situation is resolved?
No, now it's fun. Now I'm going, I'm cranking, I'm like putting up my spreadsheet, I'm going, I'm going to approach that person. Yeah, look at this. It's like I'm bouncing around. I have music playing in my head. So definitely the fun is a big piece of that.
Okay. And so now it has to do with value and actually deciding that it is important, because up until now it's something you have ignored, and you have left on the side, but actually it's very important. So it's deciding that from now on, I'll decide that I will fulfill this need for fun. I will find a way. I don't know which one yet, but I will find a way. And it is to make this decision.
Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to have to think about that. Yeah, I can make that decision. Cool. Okay, so I want to stop and recap here because for listeners here, to you, gentle watchers, Isaac's full process took about 3.5 to 4 hours to go through, and we only have about 14 more minutes. So I want to make sure that we don't actually get caught in a 4-hour process. So what we've heard so far is that a lot of times when you're not getting things done or when you're resisting things, it's because of an unfulfilled need, something that you need for growth and for expansion that isn't getting fulfilled in the situation. And Isaac, correct me if I'm wrong, but what your process is when you're in that situation, or when you're thinking about the situation where you're not taking action and you want to be, where you need to go is to ask yourself, what am I feeling in this situation, and what needs are or aren't getting are need to get met by the situation, and which ones actually are not being met by the situation. And in the case where we were just talking, you identified that that one of the needs in prospecting was for me to make a living, but what I identified when you asked me how I felt and what needs weren't being fulfilled, I came up with needs for fun and engagement. And then the next step was to start to imagine, what if I had the fun and engagement? Is that actually enough to get me through the block? And that tells me these are the needs that aren't being fulfilled.
Right. And I want to stress that there is one primary need. It's not like you have 1,000 needs you need to fulfill. You have many needs, of course, but when you feel stuck in a given situation, there is always one primary need which is not fulfilled. And the key is to identify this one and to fulfill this one. And another thing I want to say is that where we are now in the process, we are not looking yet at specific strategies to meet this need. We are just recognizing that this is the primary need and this is important. And even if I don't know how I am going to fulfill this need yet in this given specific situation, I decide that it's important and that no matter what, I will fulfill this need. So we are here in the process, and we will look at strategies later.
All right. So we know that I'm going to be fulfilling the need for fun, because fun is fun. Now, one of the other things that we encountered when we were doing the work together was the idea of identity. And this is an idea that I've run into at many, many different places over the course of my career. James Clear wrote about it in the book Atomic Habits, where he said one of the cornerstones to establishing a new habit is to adopt an identity that is congruent with, or that will actually encourage that habit. From where I analyze them, identity is something that opens doors and closes doors. We tend to run away from things that are a mismatch for our identity, and we tend to embrace things that are a match for our identity. Personally, I have a bunch of identities. I grew up in a traveling New Age commune, hippie commune. So I've kind of got this whole hippie commune, New Age, environmental identity. I went to MIT. I was a computer geek. I'm a total nerd. I have an identity as a nerd, which is often betrayed by the fact that I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons yet. Believe it or not, I can't. If anyone out there is running a D&D game and would like a beginner who would be really psyched to do it, get a hold of me, because that my nerd identity is feeling impoverished. And then I went to Harvard Business School, and there's a whole Harvard Business School identity having to do with power, control, hierarchy, the ability to understand business problems, strategic thinking, a whole set of skills and possible life paths and careers, where when I'm in Harvard HBS, Harvard MBA mode, there are things that I simply, D&D, I'll go ahead and acquire the company, and I'll release my own D&D sets and make a fortune and corner the market on orcs and elves. Right? That's how Harvard MBA Stever would respond to D&D, whereas Nerd Stever says, I want to do it, and Hippie Stever is actually living it in some weird and bizarre fashion. So tell us a little bit about how identity works into your process, and how should we think about our own identities, and how are our identities and our sense of identity going to help us get to the places we want to go, help us finish the initiatives we want, and where is it going to get in the way of that?
Yes. So as you said, identity is a very strong driver. And we always want to do actions which are congruent to our identity. And I would like to share with you a little framework about that. So here we have reality, and then we have be, do, and have. So reality is how things are, and we do not have yet a direct perception of reality. We have it through our senses, through our heart, and everything we feel, basically, and think. And our ego identifies with stimuli which are produced through our sensory experience, which try to give us a sense of what is this reality. And when our ego identifies with that, we call this process identification. And when you are identified to a specific feeling, a specific idea, then it becomes your self-image. This is who you feel you are. And then you become something. And then from this state of being, you have certain intention. So intention is the bridge between being and doing. And the bridge between doing and having is causality. Now, why identity is so important? Because most people, when something focus on the doing, they're like, what I do must be wrong. And at this level, we are talking about strategies. Now we see that the way we execute a strategy is dependent upon our identity. So if we have a negative identity relative to our goal, no matter what we will do or what strategies we will try to put in practice, we will fail. And if we have a positive identity relative to our goal, so our goal is to have a certain outcome. This is outcome. Then we will find a way to succeed because this is who we are.
So can you put some actual concrete examples on that? So who is it? Well, let's use my example. So can you talk a little bit about the identity level, the being and the doing and the outcomes of somebody who needs to do prospecting and is resisting? So what would the identity be in that case? Or I mean, make something up so that we can just get a sense of what identity would be.
Yes, sure. So I will draw another framework in a minute, but basically we identify with feelings. And we know that feelings come from needs, and that when we have a need which is in a state of lack, we feel negative feelings. And when we have an identity which is positive, it means we identified with positive feeling, which come from a need which is met. And so let me share my screen again. I will draw something. So basically, here we have the ego, and it can identify with a need which is in a state of lack, and a need which is in a state of fulfillment. Now, from this identity of lack, yes.
So what I felt like was lacking was fun. So are we saying that I would be identifying with my need for fun, which is, or rather with the lack of fun? Is that how I'm interpreting this?
Yes, basically, you are like, it's kind of boring to do this, and if you are identified with fun, with the feeling of fun, and it's part of your identity, then prospecting will be fun to do. It won't be boring because fun is who you are being. It's what you identify with.
Got it. And so, okay, so, but in the place where I'm feeling hesitation, I'm not feeling fun. So I'm not identifying with fun in that moment. So is that
Yes,
an identity?
correct.
That's an identity that's based on lack, not on the presence of fun. It's based on the lack of fun.
Yes.
Okay, keep going. I'm with you.
And when you act from a place of lack, no matter what you do, you will create more lack in your life. And when you identify with abundance, with the feeling of a need being fulfilled, no matter what you do or not do, you will create more abundance in your life.
Okay,
So
no, I want to stop you. I want to stop you with that sentence here.
Yes.
Because there's people who did like The Secret in 2010 or whatever it was, who would just say, oh, if you're operating from a place of lack, then you'll have lack in your life because that's how you feel. You're not just saying that it's some cosmic principle, some weird cosmic principle. If I remember correctly, you actually have a specific logic behind why that's the case. That is not like this fluffy woo-woo new age stuff that hippie Stever would be very comfortable with, but MIT Stever is like, no, that's pure bullshit. You actually have a way, if I remember correctly, that MIT Stever would go like, oh, that makes sense. Could you share with people? Because I think there's other people who would also be interested in understanding that, that there really is a logic behind that.
Yes, of course. So basically, that's the idea. So here, if you are identified with lack, there is two kind of polarity action you can do. So positive polarity doesn't mean good, and negative polarity doesn't mean bad. It's like you have a magnet and you have a positive side and a negative side. And so let me explain. Imagine that you are identified with, I am not worthy of appreciation. So the need here, we will just change. The need here is appreciation. And we are with black. Now, you do a negative quality action, which is like taking. So for example, little children, it's like a little children and you're like, do you like my framework? Do you like this? Do you like that? But deep down, I don't like it. So I have this, I am identified with this. So
oh no, we've lost him. So much for the worldwide internet. And we're also out of time. All right. I don't know if he's coming back. To those of you who are watching, thank you very much for joining. I apologize that we got cut off in the middle. I will try to do either another live stream with Isaac or maybe record something offline. It may be that the international aspect of this and where the servers are located for the streaming. This all may be kind of screwy and screwed up, and we'll need to just figure out a different way to do it. But thank you for joining. That's Isaac Teyssier, who's, oh my gosh, I forgot his URL. I think it's one, I don't remember it off the top of my head, and I didn't write it down because it was on the screen, and I figured I wouldn't need to show it. In any event, he can be found on the internet. You can search for him on LinkedIn. He's one of my connections, Isaac Teyssier, Teyssier. And his process is really, really fascinating. And he has a lot of frameworks that describe how it works. And basically what he does is helps people take action in places where they're stuck, where they're procrastinating, where they're resisting doing things. And he does it by examining their needs in the moment, the sense of identity that they're operating out of, and then teaching you how to operate differently. It's a very cool process. It helped me tremendously, and I hope that it can help you too. I'm Steve Robbins. You can find me at steverobbins.com or at linkedin.com. Oh, Isaac is back. OneKeyAction.com. Let's finish this thought, and then we'll wrap up the live stream. Isaac, I'm glad you made it back. You were in the middle of talking about how having a negative identity in a situation can actually prompt you to take actions that will reinforce the negative identity, and how having a positive identity will help you take actions that reinforce that, without this being some woo-woo type spiritual cosmic law. Like there's an actual concrete psychological reason why that's the case. So if you would like to continue, let's do it. And then we have to wrap up.
Right. Yes. So if I truly like what I do and I am identified with this need to fulfill, no matter the outside response of the environment, I will still love what I expression of it will make me more identified with that, no matter the outside response. And if I am identified with a lack, no matter the outside response, it will still create more lack. Yeah, basically that's the idea. When inside you're confident about something and you identify with that, the outside response doesn't matter.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. We are out of time, and unfortunately, we got disconnected. Thank you for joining. If you could tell people how to reach you, and just a hint, it's right down there on the screen at OneKeyAction.com. Yes. Anything else you'd like people to know? All right.
So something you can do is whenever you feel stuck or in emotion, like don't try to force it, and listen to it and look what is the need behind it. When you find the need, just take care of it and fulfill it for yourself. And then from this place of being fulfilled, then you can act, then you can do something. And it will create more of this in your life.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I will see you again soon. And if the video quality on this was not great, because I was having a lot of connectivity issues, it seemed, we will do it again so that people have something that is crystal clear and awesome that they can use for reference. Thank you very much, Isaac.